All right, guys, here we go. Another episode of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. So, we just got back from Mount Washington yesterday. Third attempt, third annual trip up there, and I figured I'd go over 3 lessons with you guys that I internalize, right? Then I share them with you guys. Maybe you can use them, maybe you can't. If you can't, then you forget about them. This is Bruce Lee saying, take what is useful and discard the rest. That's what you got to do in life. Always absorb what is useful to you, make it your own, and discard the rest. You don't have to absorb everything. So let's see. We were going up there Friday. We had 3 new guys that were doing it. Owner and Okan, the brothers, and little Eddie from Chicago. There's 8 of us. Now the first thing I want to go over with you guys, because I think it's good for you guys to see how I go about my fasting and my discipline with that. So I was debating on doing a 48-hour fast throughout the climb. Now physically I knew I could do that. I thought it would be good further proof for people out there that are curious about the Panda method and can you perform at a high level on this. Now either way, right, every year I don't eat during the climb. It's a regular 1 meal a day. And kind of had it in my mind that I was going to do a 48-hour fast as I was going through this. But tradition is a big thing, right? Tradition in life and tradition with what we go through on a daily basis. And one of our traditions when we go up to Mount Washington is that we go out to this place, Elvio's Pizza, in North Conway. It's a pizza place, actually really good pizza. And we bond and we eat, and it's kind of a feast before we climb the next day. You know, we get back to the hotel, everybody's got a little bit of nervous energy, do your thing, get to sleep, and we're up early the next day. So I decided not to do a 48-hour fast during the climb because of the social reasons and the bonding reasons. Yeah, I was going to go out to eat with them no matter what, but I would have just been sitting there. And I would have had no problem with that. But there is a huge element. This is where you have to realize the bonding element that could take place over food, right? Food is a very powerful thing. Meals, breaking bread together. It's a big thing. So talked to my brother Sugar Shane, a few of the guys, Mikey. I said, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy the pizza with you guys. So that's important, guys. You can realize that, hey, I could do this to prove a point where I can have this experience. I valued that experience at that moment to be greater than further proof that my Panda method could work for endurance athletes. I mean, the guides already can't believe that we fast and don't eat on the way up. I mean, people are popping packets and this goo and all this silliness, which you don't need. It actually hurts you, in my opinion. So that was the first lesson, right? Put it out there and see what was given to me as far as inspiration. What should I do? And that was ultimately the right decision for me, was to enjoy that pizza. And I did the order. Like, I'm a legendary food order, guys. I'll go over that with you. I've talked about that before. Ordered the perfect amount of pizza. There were 7 of us. We got 7 pies, couple Sicilians. There was not one slice left. Everybody was satisfied. So that was pretty cool. So that was the first lesson, is realize that, and especially too, guys, and I always say this, with the fasting, you get to enjoy your meals much more, right? You get to really dive into them and be grateful for who you're eating with and what you're eating in front of you, right? That's a huge thing to do that. And that, like I said, we look forward to that pizza night, the day before we climb. So that's a cool thing. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, so we went up a different route this year, other side of the mountain. Overcast day. The past 2 years we had sunny days. They were supposed to have a storm coming in, and they did. It was snow. It was snowing from started probably 2 o'clock, and it was still snowing. Excuse me. When we left North Conway yesterday morning about 7 a.m. Now, when you're up on Mount Washington is known as the deadliest little mountain in the world, 6,200 feet. So it's not really little, but it's not one of these 20,000 footers or 15,000 footers. but it does have the craziest weather patterns in the world. Highest recorded wind in the history of the world, 233 miles an hour. And about 6-7 weeks ago, it had the lowest ever wind chill ever recorded in the lower 48, negative 110 degrees. And that's 6 or 7 weeks ago. So things could change on a dime up there. So we were progressing pretty good. We had gotten to our second stop where it was time to bundle up, put another layer on, and then we could see the summit, progress to the summit. And basically on this side, we're on the side of the mountain, right? And it's crunchy ice. You got your crampons on. But for me with the heights, right, like my thought, like my lizard brain is, man, if I slip, I can roll right down that mountain off that cliff. Stupid thought, right? But this is, I'm being open with you guys. The fear of heights is something I've dealt with. This is part of the reason I keep going back. I put myself in this uncomfortable situation. And the one guy said, man, you're really moving this year. I said, look, physically I'm in tip-top shape right now. When we turned around, I was just starting to get a little bit of a hamstring cramp on my left side. So we were cruising. And my technique, I was just looking at the heels right in front of me, looking at the person right in front of me. When we stopped at this hut of the clouds, I believe it's called, it was about 1.2 miles away from the summit. We could see the summit, which was 900 feet more elevation from where we were. And we could see it. But as we changed, now, Mikey, my boy Mikey, totally fine, right? But his hands were exposed for a little bit of time. His hands were exposed while we were waiting, right? We waited probably a little too long, probably 10 minutes at this stop. Again, the weather you could see was starting to turn. Wind was whipping. And it is literally a life or death situation. A lot can go wrong when you're up there. So then we start going from that point. We went about another, not even 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, I'm a couple back from the front, and I could see the first guy talking to Mikey, and he's trying to put, he's getting his other shell on, his other puffy jacket to put over, right? I'm like, what is going on up here? And Mikey's trying to put it over his backpack. So I knew, and then Mikey turned around, and I saw his eyes. I'm like, something doesn't look right with Mikey. Something seems off. That was my first thought. And little Eddie, first timer, he was a sergeant in the Army, BK's boy from Chicago. I see he's really helping Mikey get it organized. But then Mikey's got his hands inside the sleeves. So he's like a lobster. He's trying to pick stuff up. He's fumbling. And it just struck. I'm like, something doesn't seem right here. So we keep going. And then the first guy up in the front says, he's gone. He's got to go. He's got to go back. He's out of here. What's going on? So apparently Mikey started developing frostbite in his hands. Guys, it can come on like that. And one of the symptoms of frostbite, you could start getting delirious. You could start like losing your mind. And Mikey was in that state. So he's like, I need 3 of you to go back, because we had to keep a certain ratio. We have 2 guides. We were 8 guys. You had to keep a certain ratio guide to climbers. I said, I want the new guys to go. I'm going back. Mikey's my boy. Make sure he gets back down safe. Sugar Shane decided to come with us. So there was 5 of them that were going to continue on. Owner, Okan, BK, Eddie, and my brother-in-law, Nathan. So we start going back, and then all of a sudden Mikey said, no, I can do it. And the guy screamed, no, you're out of here. You got to go back. So Mikey's leg was also starting to cramp at that point. So we get back down close to the hut where we had just stopped, and we see them on the ridge, and they're stopped. So Shane's like, guys, they're stopped up there. So Owner was starting to cramp pretty bad. So why is it they sent him back to us? We're waiting at the hut. We go back down. Now, guys, in that situation, you're getting blasted by the wind on the side of the mountain. You are in the elements, right? You are standing there. There's nothing but you and the side of the mountain and ice and snow and wind. And, for me, I'm like, this is not where I want to be stopped. I do not want to be stopped here on the side of the mountain, because if I look left, I know the lizard brain for me could start going, right? So I really had to control my state. But we were put in a situation where you have to make a decision quickly. And how often do people put themselves in these situations where they have to make a life or death decision, right? Literally, people die up here all the time in Mount Washington. I'm not saying Mikey was in danger of dying, but if he kept going, that was going to be one thing. Could he get back down? And you're put in this fight or flight situation now. And this is what we were discussing in the hot tub afterwards was, look, you have to put, I believe you have to put yourself in these situations. You have to put yourself in these situations from time, whatever that is, whether it's jujitsu, whether it's just pushing yourself beyond the limits of where you think you can go physically, because you need to know how are you going to respond in those situations. So life or death situation, 8 guys, boom, decision, and it worked out perfectly. Nathan was probably the perfect guy to help Okan get up to the top. Okan was really struggling, rightly so, and they were able to help him get to the top. And Eddie brought ashes from his sister and his deceased sister and father that he wanted to spread up there. Right? Most of the guys didn't know that. BK told me that in the morning. And so it was BK had to make it up there with him, right? Like he knew this was going to be a transformative experience for Eddie's family and for Eddie's life as a father and a husband. And Eddie's already saying that, right? The night before, he's like, I would have, and now he's like, I understand what you guys were saying. So we made this decision quickly. To me, it was, I'm going back with Mikey, make sure he gets down safe. Sugar Shane, same thing. And then Owner, we waited for, right? Because it probably would not have been safe for him to keep going when he stopped on the ridge. Because it's something when you're up there. But that's another thing. Put yourself in these situations where you have to make a decision, right? And you have to apply that. Now, for me going down, of course, Mikey's my boy. Wanted to get down. And I knew from a personal point of view, guys, that, yeah, I wasn't going to summit if I made that decision. Physically, I know I could have, right? I think all of us could have if Mikey didn't get the frostbite. But I knew that I applied the stress I needed to my mind for that day to come back better and stronger. Again, the heights is always going to be a thing for me. And it's a little bit easier each year. But I knew I applied enough stress to myself that day that I would get a stress response and I would come back stronger and tougher because I did what I did and I was good with that, right? You want to apply, just like in the weight room, apply these stressors to your body, to your mind, so your body can adapt to them. So that is a key thing. So making life or death decisions, putting yourself in that situation, right? Put yourself in that situation. This is one of the reasons I'm so big that guys in particular should be training some type of martial art. They should have some type of experience with getting punched in the face or getting choked or grappling with another man. Because if you're put in that situation, a fight or flight situation, you're put in a life or death situation, what are you going to do? You can't leave it up to chance. You cannot leave it up to, let me see how I react. Remember, the animal brain reacts. The human brain responds. So when you're put in these situations, can you have enough ability in the prefrontal cortex, in the human part of your brain, to make a good decision, to respond? So that's the other thing. Now, the last thing, big lesson that we're really going over in the hot tub, right? I'm a philosopher. That's what I am, guys. And I happen to be in the strength and conditioning field. But the more time goes on, I realize that I'm a philosopher, right? That's what I do. And I look at different situations and we discuss this stuff. So we're discussing this stuff in the hot tub. Again, Mikey was being tough on himself. I said, listen, you summited last year. You know you can do it, right? You already did it. But this situation you were put in, now you have this whole new skill set, this whole new tool. Hey, I was put in a situation where I was getting frostbite, and now I know what to do. I know what to look towards. I know what to look for. I know how to respond in a situation. Maybe this might happen to somebody in your family. So this is what I call direct knowledge. You have to develop direct knowledge from the universe or from God by putting yourself in these situations. You can read about this stuff all you want. You can watch about it all you want, but until you're in that situation, that's the deepest form of learning, especially when, thanks, Michael. Michael says he knew I was a philosopher from day one. So you have to put yourself in these situations, right? This is the deepest form of learning when you're in this situation. So we're going over that, me and Mikey, and I said, look, man, you have this new tool for the rest of your life because you put yourself in that situation. You put yourself in a very scary situation. You made it out and you knew, okay, this is what I have to do next time. So now he's got a pattern, right? The brain is a pattern recognition machine. So that's a key thing, is that direct knowledge. I'm a huge believer in that. Just like with the fasting, you have to develop direct knowledge by doing it. You can read about a 3-day fast or a 2-day fast or a 5-day fast or Indigo Panda all you want, but until you immerse yourself in it, That is direct knowledge. And I take direct knowledge over any textbook, any studies, anywhere, because it's direct knowledge. You know that this is what happens. It's an internal truth that you develop, right? And Mikey was joking. He's like, man, you would have had such a field. He knows me better than I thought he did. It's like, you would have had such a field day, man. If I made it to the top and I had to get my hand amputated, I would have been like all over the place for years. Mikey, come over here. Show him your hand. Show him your stump. And I would have had a field day with that. Saying, look, man, this guy was so mentally tough that he lost his hand. And we were joking, but I did throw it out there to him. And again, this is just philosophy. I said, well, all right, think about this, Mikey. And I was kind of busting his balls. I said, but which way would it be more likely that your great grandkids were talking about you one day, or they knew who you were? That we turned around like we did, or that you had to get your hand amputated because you decided to push through? And he said, oh, you got a point. And I was just completely joking with him. But there's different ways to look at everything, right? There's different ways to look at everything. But he made the smart decision. We made the smart decision. The guide, Brendan, made the smart decision to make him go back. You know, you never know. And they tell us on the way up, listen, the goal is not to make it to the top. The goal is to get you all back down safely. You all have families. You all, this is not a competition. It's not a profession for you guys. So you keep that in mind, and then you progress with that as you move forwards. So direct knowledge, and I'm going to save this for next year. Actually, I was going to take a picture of this up top, right? It's a note that Braxton wrote for me by himself the day before, and it says, if you can't read it or you're just listening to this, Daddy, I love you so, so much. I hope you can make it up the mountain. I'm so, so proud of you. Love, Braxton. And I was going to take a picture and show that to him. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep this until the next time I summit. And I will hold this picture up there and get a picture. I will hold this note up there and get a picture of it on the top of Mount Washington. So there's just so many cool things, guys. You never know what you're going to experience. But those are my 3 lessons that I wanted to share with you while it's fresh in my mind from my 3rd attempt at Mount Washington. I'm 1 for 3. I'll take it. I'll be back next year. You never know what's going to happen up there, but you keep attempting. You keep attempting. And you learn. You learn as you go through it. So you guys, I appreciate your support. I appreciate everything you guys do for me, the way you guys inspire me. Please share this episode. Hit the like button. Leave a comment if you want. Share it with somebody that needs to hear maybe one of these lessons. And I'll be back later in the week. Again, appreciate you guys. Love you guys.